Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. We have obviously been talking about the Demons of Chaos for quite some time now, and I want to dedicate a few videos specifically to certain characters, which may or may not end up as legendary lords or heroes in Total War Warhammer 3. As always, we will discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop, and how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. Today, I want to go over one of my personal favourite characters, Azazel, Demon Prince of Slaanesh. So without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those who might not be aware of him, we'll read over his entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 5th edition Champions of Chaos Army book. Azazel, Prince of Damnation. When Azazel abandoned humanity and pledged his mortal soul to the service of Slaanesh, none can say, but it is rumoured that in the distant past he was the leader of the Geryon tribe, one of the 12 great peoples that followed Sigmar, the first emperor. The legend says that he betrayed his liege lord and escaped to the northern wastes, pledging loyalty to Slaanesh, the young Prince of Chaos. Azazel was greatly favoured by his master and rose quickly in his esteem. After slaying Arthur, the exalted champion of Khorne in single combat, Slaanesh turned his eyes upon Azazel and elevated him to demonhood, making him commander of the Prince of Chaos's demonic legions. It is said that the beauty of Azazel is second only to his patron, but as irresistible as his beauty is, there is a deadly edge to it. Those who have gazed upon him never forget the sensual temptation his presence arouses. It is a beauty which evokes loathing and a temptation that sickens the soul. Azazel's hair is long, jet black, and as fine as flax. Two great lacquered horns crown his handsome brow. His eyes are full of innocence, and yet they are cruel, calculating, and without pity. His smooth skin is white, the colour of the finest porcelain, and his movements are graceful, his limbs long and delicate. In his right hand he carries an enchanted blade that writhes as if alive, and his left hand is a long, chitinous claw, delicate yet deadly. His wings are of the purest white, their beauty unmatched by swans or other creations of nature. He soars over the battlefield, sometimes sweeping low to strike his foes, and yet his feet never touch the ground. Azazel dresses in robes made of the finest silks, and his body is bedecked with gorgeous jewels and shining gems. Azazel commands a legion of demons of his master, and under his command, the armies of the Prince of Chaos have enjoyed one blissful triumph after another. Most of their opponents give up the fight before it even begins, for few can bring themselves to harm such an enchanting and wondrous being as Azazel. Azazel, on the other hand, has no such qualms. Azazel sees into the very hearts and souls of men, and even their deepest desires and hidden passions are plain to him. With his silvery voice, Azazel whispers to his opponents, promising them all they have ever desired if they abandon the folly of opposing Slaanesh and embrace the mercy of the Prince of Chaos instead. And there are very few that can resist his temptations. All who know of him dread to face him in battle, for the cost of losing to Azazel is not only the death of the body, but the damnation of the soul as well. At the Battle of the Moors, a force of zealous Templars of Ulrich had made vows before the flame of Ulrich in Middenheim that they would banish Azazel or perish trying. But before the battle ended, the Templars had been reduced to gibbering imbeciles, slaves to the slightest whim of Azazel. He set collars around their necks and made them walk on all fours like dogs to amuse his patron Slaanesh. The questing knight Guido de Brion sought out Azazel, intending to challenge him to single combat to fulfill his Grail quest, but instead he kneeled before the Demon Prince, begging him to accept his undying devotion. Laughing, Azazel severed the head of the Bretonnian knight, who stood unmoving, convinced in the justification of the act. Woe to those who face Azazel, the right hand of Slaanesh. This only barely scratches the surface in regards to lore for Azazel. The character himself, before ascending to demonhood, almost even killed Sigmar Heldenhammer himself. Though with that being said, let's move on to how Azazel was in the tabletop way back in the day. Azazel back in 5th edition was a melee caster hybrid, much better in melee than he was with spellcasting, but it can be assumed in Total War it would be balanced out a little bit, mainly because there are no wizard levels in Total War Warhammer. If your caster has access to the lore of magic, then he has access to all spells implemented for it. High stats on the tabletop meant that Azazel could be up close and personal without a problem, and it can be assumed that he would take more or less the same role in Total War Warhammer. On the tabletop, Azazel had a number of special rules and magical items, nothing too increasingly special, but interesting nonetheless, so let's begin to cover them. The first is of course the Mark of Chaos, where Azazel bears the Mark of Slaanesh. The Mark of Slaanesh has seen different ways on how it worked in the tabletop, but how it worked for Azazel in 5th edition meant that he never needed to take a break test. It near enough made him unbreakable, and it was represented with the following line: "He never needs to take a break test, for death in combat would just be another welcome consummation of experience." Of course, it's easy enough to translate for Total War, where I'm assuming the character would be considered unbreakable. We've already got a few legendary lords like that, so it wouldn't really be a problem. The next special rule is that Azazel had wings, which allowed him to fly as any other character or flying creature. Now this is a bit of an issue, as in most cases creatures that are stuck to ground but have wings, such as Malagor, have just been given a speed increase. But I'm personally hoping that Total War Warhammer 3 will change this, as it would be better and more thematic if characters such as Azazel, Malagor and a few others could just actually fly. The way I've personally thought about it is just having his wings as a mount option. The model would of course always have its trademark wings, but say you'd need to reach level 8 or 10 or so just to be able to unlock the ability to fly. Moving on, the character also had the Terror special rule, which is of course already implemented into Total War Warhammer. As explained before, Azazel is a melee caster hybrid and has access to the lore of Slaanesh. The character itself has two magical items, the first being the Dark Halo, which gives him a rather potent ward save and can be assumed would do the exact same thing in Total War Warhammer. The next item is that of the Demon Blade, a magical weapon which negated the effects of armor on the enemy. However, this would only affect standard armor and not any sort of magical armor, so we can more or less expect for this weapon to have the magical attacks and armor-piercing special rules. Azazel had a rather interesting special rule known as Temptator. At the beginning of the Chaos player's turn, one enemy character in base contact with Azazel has to take a leadership test. If the test is failed, the character can be controlled by the Chaos player from now on, and he fights exactly as if he was part of the Chaos army. Nothing can change the affected character's allegiance back. He belongs to Slaanesh now, mind, body and soul. I'm not too sure if something like this could even be done in Total War Warhammer, so instead I would probably see this implemented in a different way. Maybe Temptator could be implemented in the form of a vassal system, where should Azazel and his forces beat down any minor human factions, he would be able to vassalize them, as if to represent that they have fallen to Slaanesh. Of course, this would only be to minor factions, so you wouldn't be able to vassalize, say, Karl Franz or Leon Leonka. Something like that would be just a tad odd. Something like that could potentially be quite fun. In regards to his possible implementation into Total War Warhammer, he would obviously be a Lord choice, but unfortunately, I don't really see this character being available at launch. Maybe some days down the line we would see Azazel implemented as a DLC character, and the reason why I'm thinking this is because, well, we have obviously seen the hints to N'Kari. There have in fact been a number of hints throughout Warhammer 2, so it's likely that N'Kari will be there at launch as the first legendary lord for Slaanesh. Daemon, of course, as we already have Sigvald implemented since Warhammer 1. In regards to any possible mechanics, we've of course already talked about the possibility of a vassal system, but we could also expand upon that even further. Azazel is known to go out and tempt mortal men, so what if there was a system implemented to make him actually seek them out? Think of it in a similar way to how Alifanar has those marked targets, where every few turns or so, a new list of possible new souls to tempt will appear before Azazel, a direct message from Slaanesh wishing for these souls to be consumed. You'd be given a certain amount of turns to go and seek these enemies out and defeat them. Should you be able to do so, you could either vassalize them or just destroy them. It doesn't even have to be a specific faction leader, it could just be some random lord, so instead of being able to vassalize them, they would be permanently killed, but with that you would be granted some boons of Slaanesh. Some general bonuses, reduced upkeep for units, possibly just some extra public order or extra growth, you know, there's just the basic stuff that you do expect from completing quests. Honestly, I think something like that would work very well for Azazel, and it doesn't need to be expanded upon too much. But what do you guys think about the possibility of Azazel being a playable character in Total War Warhammer 3? And how would you see the character implemented? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.